Welcome back to the Girl Power Alliance podcast. We had to hit record because we were already starting in the content for this podcast. My name is Michelle Schaffer. I'm so excited to have these two amazing women on the call with us today, or on the podcast with us today. Now, let me backspace a little bit, okay? Before we began recording, both of them said, "So, what is this podcast supposed to be about?" So, I'm going to give you some context. A couple of weeks ago, we ended our second official send off into the world for our Radiant Leadership Coaches. Our team is small but mighty. And I got a voice message because the two of them were in the car together. And the voice message proceeded to tell me how, in the beginning, and I'm going to let them talk. In the beginning, because we've been working together now for years. Farras and I, since basically May of 2020, Molly came on board and really got into the nitty gritty with us probably in 2021. And listen, I'm just going to be honest. I know I'm a lot. Like, I get it. I get that I am. I work fast. I move fast and break things. And so before we started the recording, Farras said, "What's this podcast about?" I said, this is based on the phone call you guys sent me after the event. I said, so I would like to start the podcast with all the things that you used to complain about me in the beginning. And if I would have been recording Farras's face at that moment, you would all know that clearly there were some things in the beginning that were complained about. So the name of this podcast is The Leadership Pull-Up. And what I'd love to do is, I believe that being a leader is seeing more in people than they see in themselves. I really believe this. I believe it's the purpose of leadership. And I believe that when you speak these things into existence, you speak people's gifts into existence, and you actually call them higher, they will rise to the occasion. I just truly believe that. So welcome to the podcast, Farras Seay and Molly Trotter-Gomez. These are my, I want to say sisters, but they're really could be the ages of my daughters. They are true partners. I love them dearly, and they absolutely crush what they do. This company would not be a company without them. So welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you. And, it's going to be funny just to see what actually comes out. The truth will be revealed because we had to learn a lot. I mean, I feel like, Michelle, you should have came with a disclaimer in the beginning being like, by the way, shoot, ready, aim, we're going to do all these things.
Yeah, shoot, ready, aim. How about going rogue? Yeah, how about that?
But
listen,
it's good.
I was thinking about something the other day, and I was thinking about after you guys left me this voice message, I was thinking about the fact that in the beginning, I'm a visionary, so I have a lot of ideas at once, and some of them are terrible and some of them are good. And in the formation of a company, I believe that you have to, no matter how clear the vision is, you have to have the ability to be flexible and going down a path and seeing that that path is not actually working or it needs to be adjusted. So you're constantly making adjustments, constantly. And you're like, we tried this, it isn't working, we're going to move to this. And I feel like, while that seems very normal to me, because that's the way that my brain works, it isn't normal to a lot of people, especially depending on the environment that you came from. And I very specifically remember in the beginning with you guys being like, hey, here's 77 things we're going to do, and getting like deer in headlights. And my response would be, it's okay if, like, I actually know I ask a lot. And so my response would be all the time, don't worry, I'll do it. And it wasn't a manipulation. I said this to Bobby. He goes, that sounds manipulative. I go, I wasn't manipulating. I realize I ask a lot. And if somebody else isn't capable or can't handle it, or it's like I'm not saying, well, you're a loser, forget it, I'll do it myself. That's not it. But I was like, I'll just handle it. But I think both of you, that would actually tick you off. You'd be like, no, I got it. So I would love to start with you guys, like, lay it on me. Let's talk about some of the challenges in the beginning for this kind of fast-paced.
Go ahead, Farras. Let her rip.
It's thinking back now, it's really hard to kind of go back there right? Because we have leveled up so much and we've grown so much. And I think it's definitely roles that you have to grow into. You have to grow through the pain. You got to grow through your circumstances, grow from the things that you've been taught before. So going back there, I'm thinking about many conversations. And before I hand it off to you, Molly, there was one conversation. I remember I was picking up Kylie. She was in elementary school at the time. And I think they had just went back to school, and you guys were on speaker, and it was the three of us, and we were talking about hosting our first event. And I remember Michelle saying, you have to envision this as a multi-million dollar company. You have to have this bigger thing, whether it's events and the people that we're impacting. And I remember sitting in the car going, there is no way that this is going to happen with the three of us. I don't know the first thing about hosting an event. I don't know the first thing about, marketing an event. And my brain was completely exploded. And I specifically remember Molly and you being like, oh yeah, oh my gosh. And you guys just were spitfiring these ideas. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, these chicks are nutso butso. They are nutso. There is no way. It is 2020. Like, what is even actually going on? So, it's almost, it's like what they say, right? You plant a seed and you watch it grow. And I feel that in that moment, a seed was definitely planted. Even though I may have not wanted that seed planted there, it definitely was planted because, gosh, now we've hosted 2 events, multiple other in-person events, and we're going on multiple events this year. So, to say that it didn't happen, it has happened and is continuing to happen. So it's definitely planting that seed in somebody and never letting up on the gas or letting up on, I guess, the miracle growth.
So to summarize, the pressure was good.
It was, yeah.
At the time you didn't feel like it though.
No, I feel like a lot of people kind of know me by now. Pressure is definitely not something that I dealt with in the past very well with. Pressure to me felt very heavy and almost very anxious. And now the pressure it's a lot different, but the pressure was huge. It was like, how are we? And I'll have to say, I couldn't visualize it then. I couldn't visualize that happening. So as you guys are talking and you guys are bouncing all these ideas, and I'm like I said, these chicks are nutso butso. It was not even something that I even allowed my brain to expand into and allow God say, hey, like, this is possible. You just have to really stop thinking the old way that you're thinking and really playing small, really.
Love it. Go ahead, Molly. Let her rip. You guys can be honest because I think it's important for people to, all people see is the front. That's all they see. They don't know the conversations. And we collectively as a team and individually one-on-one have had hard conversations. We've grown through a lot of things, personal, professional, and I'm so unbelievably proud of this team. Like I wake up every morning and I just I want to hug and squeeze you guys because you're amazing in every way. But it took a while to get there. So, and I don't look back with negative feelings, which is why I think this message is going to be important to talk about the things that were uncomfortable and you didn't like. And now I know for sure that you guys were having conversations about what is up with this chick. Go ahead, Molly. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
To have a safe outlet, am I right? And so Farras and I, yes, there were things that were said, but it was also like, dude, like, what are we doing? Because there's a speed that you have that I've never seen in anybody, where it's not only speed, but it's like firing off like 5, 6 different new things at one time. And we're like, all right, we're building this plane in the air, and let's build another one and another one and another one. And I'm like, okay, like which one of these are going to land? And I look back on that now and I'm super grateful because of we have so much here. And somebody even commented on it saying, what you're building is like the new meta. Like there's layers and layers and layers deep and people can find their lane. But back then it was frustrating. I would be like, oh my gosh, like I feel like we just started something. Here comes another thing. So me being in the field, I'm fielding all these questions and people are like, Molly, this, Molly, that. I'm like, let me get back to you, And in the midst of that, I'm learning to go from working on my own at my own pace, very much more masculine energy, to where I had to have more empathy. more grace, more compassion, more nurturing. Because I never thought I'd work with women in this capacity. That's not new news, but maybe for somebody listening, it is. So that to me, you're mixing all of that pressure that Farras is talking about. Michelle's moving at like, bullet train speed. And then I'm trying to have compassion and nurturing for people that are like, wait, hold on. What? And I'm like, all right, what are we doing? Like, what's happening? All in the midst of, there's just, when you're building something for the kingdom, the enemy's going to try to attack you in any way that he can. God's going to test you any way that he can to make sure that it is real. Like what he's doing in and through you, he can trust you with what's coming. So there was so much that converged that I just would always channel this at the end of the day. And this is real talk after, some disgruntled comments of like, what are we doing? I'm like, how the heck does Michelle do it? How does she do it? How does she wake up? How does she think about this? How does she handle this? She has so many things coming at her, but I'm like, let me put all my stuff down and ask, how does she do it? She has the vision. She's going out there doing all these things. How does she do it? And I'm a reverse engineer person. So I'm trying to like reverse engineer how she's doing things. So that's what got me to being like, okay, well, this is just something new. So we get to press into something new. Yes, there's some vent sessions of like, oh my gosh, like I don't know. But that's the whole point of everything that we've built here. There's no roadmap. No one knew. We just went and did it. And we're literally building something off vision. And we haven't seen anybody do this before. So it was frustrating because you want can I just get a little how, please? Like, rather than just go figure it out. And we even hired somebody who does all our back-end work for the multi-level marketing side. And we tell him, hey, you've never built this before, but go build it. And so we're literally telling everybody that is working with us, just go figure it out. We'll figure it out. And we have. So I'm so grateful for you, Michelle, for just pulling us up to where this last event that she's speaking of when we sent that message, it was one of those where I was just like, wow. I remember how frustrated I used to be because I'm like, can we just like get a break? Can we just get something to go? But it was the infrastructure. It's the layers deep. It's you've gone in places we haven't leadership wise. And the only way for us to really grow this company was for you to pull us up. And we teach this in the Radiant Leadership Academy, which you wrote, is you are giving us space for our mistakes. You're giving us space for, we may not be able to figure it out first, second, third, fourth time, but you still had grace. That always caught my attention because before my husband, which I basically, before I really went full on my GPA, I got married right before that. I didn't know what grace was. I only knew how to spell it. And I had to really learn it because I just I didn't have it. I didn't know it. I never took the time to, but you gave that space. And I'm so grateful because I'm sure you have stories about us, which we would like to hear, by the way, of like, what was it like for you on your end during that time of just having to pull us up for the first couple of years until we kind of shot up there. I mean, we still got plenty of room to go, but I'd be curious on your thoughts.
Don't we all have so much room to continue to grow? To go back to this, I'll answer that question, but I want to go back to the phone call. I only talked about the beginning because what struck me was, it was one of the most profound phone calls I've ever received. Or it wasn't a phone call, it was a voice message. And I made a joke about it because, they were saying like, we used to have calls and which made me laugh. I'm like, I knew you guys were talking after the call. I knew it. I knew there was stuff going on after the call, but it was a very big compliment because you both said, you've leveled us up to this next level. And so it's a huge compliment. I thank you very much. I don't have anything negative to say. One of the things that I've learned about myself over the years and being married to somebody who's not like me, Bobby is not like me. He doesn't work at that pace. I annoy him at the pace that I work at. It was a source of struggle in the beginning of us working together because this is his words. I'm a shoot, ready, aim. He's a ready, aim, shoot. And I'm shoot, ready, aim because I believe everything is figure outable. In general, my brain does work fast. God's given me the ability to have, like, he gives vision to me, and I don't always have all the pieces, but I know I have enough pieces to go. And I guess my speed is just fast in general, but I've always known that about myself. Matter of fact, like tiny story. When I was in getting my cosmetology license, they've changed it now in California, but at the time you had to do this in-person practical with a live model, which took hours. It was a couple of hours. And then you had to do a written test, which they gave you like 2.5 hours to take the written test. I was done with the written test in 30 minutes. And I was like, I failed it. I must have failed it. Nobody's even close to done. So I went back through the entire test from the beginning to the end, and I was still the first person done. So I thought, I mean, I guess I'm going to I can't go through it again. So I knew my speed. And in being in network marketing for all the years that I had, in the beginning, I was so frustrated that nobody worked at my speed. I just thought, man, they don't want it as bad as I do. But that's not true. Everybody has their own pace. So coming to work with you guys and going into some new spaces, some areas that you already had expertise in, or a level of expertise, and then some areas that were completely new to you, I have learned that I cannot expect other people to work at my speed. So I do have grace. Now, I believe everybody has a next level and then a next level and a next. And I see that in both of you, even still. I see it in me. I see that we can all go to another level, even from where we're at. And so I believe mistakes are the best teacher. So I never expect perfection, but I do expect growth. And you guys have just you could have quit. There were a couple times I thought maybe either one of you at different moments were going to quit because the pressure was a lot. We're building something without a roadmap, without instructions, without even a model to follow. We are creating new things like our whole platform. You were talking about our software developer. Basically everything that he created for us, he's never created before. And, this is par for the course with us.
Totally.
We keep doing that. But I don't have anything to say about those moments, except for I actually felt bad for you guys because of who I am. I actually felt bad. I'm like, listen, this is what it is. Either they're going to either going to move into it or they're going to quit.
Well, where would we go? I mean, you get a taste of this. You don't want to go anywhere else. Are you joking? I was like, when you're in an environment where it's cold, it's constantly let's grow, let's build something new, let's provide solutions to people's problems. I mean, you're speaking my language. And I mean, I was so picky for so long on different people that could speak into me, praying for a mentor. Then all of a sudden we started working together, and it was a year later, I was like, oh, it was you. I was like, great, this is phenomenal. We get to be here for life. It's something that everybody asks for, but once it hits, you're like, oh my gosh. But it's is it supposed to be comfortable? Is it supposed to be, just oh, this is a breeze, especially when you're building something that no one's ever built before. So I am super grateful for it. And then just even to see, my growth or Farras's growth, just through this all, I'll have moments being wow, there's a growth moment. I know I used to do X, Y, and Z when this happened. And now I'm water off a duck's back. And so it's really cool to see that, but it's because the environment that we're in. And I just really appreciate you're always you're always finding other things. And at the end of the year, come the review, I'm hit me with something, that I need to just go next level with, because that's who you are. You want people around you to be better. And so it just makes everything better. And I super appreciate that.
Thank you.
It's really, and I think that's the beauty of it. And, as Molly was talking about all the conversations and I think a lot of times people tend to, they want to stay where it almost feels kind of safe and comfortable. And so with me and her having, conversations okay, when, why are we coming out with all of these things? When is it just going to be the one thing and we're just going to ride that one out? And looking back now, I mean, especially even just this last few months, I mean, we've launched, probably
Wild.
Over 6 or 7 different things, and some small, some big, some, nothing, some just kind of renewing. It's really hard to go back there, because in that's where we were growing and we were churning and we were, extending what it is that God truly wanted us to step into. And I think that's the beautiful gift that you have and that beauty that you have, Michelle, because yes, we could have quit. And there's so many times that, and you said, to be honest, me and Molly have been on a conversation and I'm on a call, but that has never come up. It was never it didn't matter how frustrated we were at a situation or maybe a conversation or something that was happening. It was okay, well, this has to get done. And there was never the conversation of that. So I think that's a true testament of the work that is being done here, the strong anointing that is over the company. Mm-hmm. And I think the connections, and I truly, truly believe that, God really put us in your path because he knew these are going to be the ladies that are really going to tough it out. As much as they're going to probably kick and scream because you're pulling us like toddlers, like, dude, no, why do we keep
For yourself, Ferris, I'm not a toddler.
Listen, we were toddlers. We were literally toddlers. Like, as much as we want to say, like, no, like, I got this. And just as much as we've just grown into the roles that we have here and, the leadership that we are here, I know for me personally, I never saw myself as a leader. I never sought out mentors. I never looked into professional and personal development. It was never something on my radar. It was never something that I thought I needed. And so being, sided with you and sided with Molly, it was like, either I need to put up or shut up, because it's, in a sense, I almost felt like I was going to be left in the dust. And not to say that you guys wouldn't say, oh, come on, Ferris, but it would really be my own, in a sense, demise of like, okay, well, I'm saying, no, I don't want that, because it's too icky and it's too hard. And I had a conversation with somebody in the field the other day, and it was like, oh, well, it's just always, she said, oh, it's just always so crazy all the time, and all these things are happening. And I stopped her and I said, when is it never not? I said, the thing is that it's always crazy. I said, as you grow and as you're being stretched and as you're learning to step into new roles and talking to new people and impacting lives, I said, it may seem like right now is really messy, but give yourself 6 months and you're going to probably end up in a similar situation that's going to seem messy and crazy, but it's not going to feel as messy and crazy. And so that's where I think that leadership pull-up is really predominant here, and why we sent you that, because it was, you grow through things that are really hard, and you shed off things that you're like, okay, cool. Like, I don't want to go through that again. And and it's almost an expectant. You expect what is happening and how you're going to grow through it. So when, in a sense, you could call it a crisis upon you, it's not a crisis. It's like, okay, cool, this is how we'll handle it. I mean, when you're in it, it's you want to push and you pull, and it's really a matter of just growing through all of these things and really pressing forward with it.
I have a question for you both. So for somebody listening that they want to grow, right? Maybe they're here. Maybe there's somebody here in our environment. They're already a member. They're already an ambassador. And there comes a point, I think, where every person in the season of growth, because it's not one time that this happens. This happens multiple times in your life if you are engaged in a lifestyle of continuing to grow and continuing to try to become the best version of yourself, right? The version that God created you to be. So if you're listening to this and you're feeling stretched and super uncomfortable and like, is this even worth it? Why am I putting myself through this? I would venture to guess that you both had multiple moments that you felt that. Like, why am I putting myself through this? I could go back to this, or I could go do this, and it wouldn't be that hard. It would be so much easier. Can both of you share maybe a moment that you felt that way? You don't have to go into the details if you don't want to about what caused you to feel that way. But what I really want people to hear is, why did you choose to press in instead of bail? Because that's where so many people get to those moments. As you're growing, you will always hit the point that it's like, it's either I go completely back or I bust through the wall. And I kind of get excited about those moments now, because I'm like, this means I'm moving into the next level of my own growth in this area. But it feels terrible in the moment. So, Ferris, I'll have you start, and then Molly, you can answer after her.
So
just
this happens to me a lot. So, I mean, I for anybody listening and watching, each one of us is so different, and especially with our growth. This happens to me quite often. Sometimes I don't even really recognize it, because either I've grown through it already. I would definitely say at the end of last year, it was right before, I think we were doing like reviews, and I was terrified, and I felt that I was having a really tough time just in my department, in my role, and what I was doing. I felt that I was messing up a lot. I was getting overwhelmed, and I felt like I couldn't do certain things at the speed that I needed it to be done, and with all the editing and getting things out. And I kept leaning on, Molly, and she's like, hey, I can't really, do that with you right now. Like I have this going on. And I would try to call Michelle and she wouldn't answer. And I'm like, nobody wants to talk to me. Nobody wants to help me. And nobody wants to. And there was a distinct moment and that happened. And I went through that for a couple months. So at the beginning of this year, there was a moment where it was like, okay, it is going to be easier to leave, right? It's going to be easier to leave and just go get another job and, work for somebody else. And it'll just be easier because I can clock out. And, if I accomplish, great. If I don't, whatever, I have a job, I can pay the bills. And I was stopped dead in my tracks. And it was like, I remember distinctively hearing, and it was like, you're making this about you. You're making it about you. Like, why are you making all these little things about you? This isn't for you. I'm doing this, with you, but you're making all of these tiny little things and problems and wall hitting things about you. Like, I want you to be over here, but you're still trying to be over here. So make a decision. And it was very clear. It was like, okay, like I'm making this about me. So I'll leave it with, there was something that I watched on one Sunday, and I believe it'll forever stick with me, is you're always in between two miracles. So it's like you reach one, some people can refer this to a mountain or a climb, or, in your sense, it's like you're hitting a wall. You're going to go back or you're going to punch through the wall. It seems all happy and grand and amazing. And then you're going through the waters and you're like, woo, this is really, really, really rough. But you can see the end goal for the next, and you can see it. And then it gets really, really, really rough and then calm. And then you reach it and you're like, oh, well, that was bad, but it wasn't really that bad. And I really just like to bring it back to, if you're here, you're wanting to grow, maybe you're not sure what that even means, and you're feeling uncomfortable and uncertain, and you have all these questions and you feel like life is chaos. Just hold on to that and really just take a deep breath and say, okay, like more of him, less of me. It's not about me. It's not about this. It's about what he wants me to truly be and to grow closer, to be more like Christ. So stop making it about me, because everything is going to work out the way it's supposed to.
So good. Thank you.
Can you, Michelle, can you restate the question one more time?
Yes. I wanted you to share a time where you maybe felt like this is too hard, and why you, in that moment, why you decided to continue to press forward instead of just bail.
I can honestly say I've actually never had a moment here in GPA, because God has set me up at divine timings with different visions to keep me on track. To be honest, he has set me up from before I went all in here. He set me up with a vision of, I'm at my computer, my future daughter's tugging on my sweater saying, mommy, come play with me. I said, no, honey, mommy has to work. In that moment, I knew that something was going to shift with my coaching business, and I was making more money, having more success than I've ever had. And I was like, finally. And then gave all that up to pursue this full time. That was one thing where I just knew, that's a non-negotiable. I've had different conversations with family members, and it never deterred me, but family members of all different kinds that have questioned, is Jesus really a part of this? That have questioned, should you really be there? Because you could be making more money. There's so much more for you out there. And it just gets me to laugh, because I'm like, okay, well, it's clearly not for you. Those moments, it did hurt, but it gets me to sharpen of, wow, you are going to see at some point, but I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing for whatever, whoever on the other side this is for. But I've had a lot of questions thrown at me of, you could do this, you could do that. And the more we dive in here of how much of a weighty call it is that the world needs actual leaders, not people that are developing followers, but actual leaders, people that will stand in the gap, people that will do the hard things. And Michelle, you are such a great example of that. And I'm so glad that you created the Radiant Leadership Academy. You created Radiant Leadership Coaching so people can now go through that and experience that. Because as I went through my first class teaching the Radiant Leadership Academy, going through that content again, I'm just like, wow, the world is starving for this. And now I can see gaps in other people who call themselves leaders, but yet they're doing their own thing. They're doing their own thing. And I know I'm kind of derailing off the question because I really actually never had a moment, but here's what I do want to end with that, or with this, is earlier this year, God gave me a visual of a torch with fire. Now, there's a lot of people, specifically it was for people in Orange County, but I know it's for just people all around the world is the vision he gave me for. Everybody has a torch, but very few are leaning that torch over to go light others. They just want their flame to get bigger. My flame, bigger, 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 more influence, more, me. And I'm just like, that's gross. Like, come on. Like, have we not learned from this already? So every time I get battled with, like you said, you hit another wall, you hit something, I'm like, ooh, this is good. I'm so glad you're sharpening me in this moment. Or Lord, I'm so glad that you gave me that visual of that torch, because this is the call. This is the call. Of course, I'm going to get tested. Sometimes I'm like, I don't know if it's warfare and I don't know if it's God testing me, but whatever it is, it's my choice on how I want to respond. And I'm going through, because this is it for me. I've never had that. I can't do this. I know I'm only supposed to be doing this. And it's definitely put different strains on my marriage and our family, but I'm so grateful that my husband has been so on board and just wants to be able to let me do whatever it is that I want to do with this thing. And what it's producing now and what it will do in the next 5-10 years is going to be astronomical. We know that. So I'm not holding out for the next 6 months. I'm holding out for the next 60 years of what God's going to do here. And of course, there's going to be stuff thrown at you. Like, duh. I tell people all the time, if I was the enemy, I'd want to stop me too. So when I see him try to come in, I'm like, nice try. Like, not going to work. Not going to work. Then you actually posed this. I think it was like late last year, and it always stuck with me. Stop asking why and start asking what. So when something happens, I'm like, instead of like, why, which sounds so whiny, it's like, what? Like, what do you want to show me, Lord? There's something here. Or is it a test? Like, and so that has really helped shape me. So believe it or not, out of all of this and why we're even on this podcast, from that voice message, from you helping us level up, I watch you like a hawk. And I know I tell you that. Like, I'm literally listening to the things that you say, watching the makeup that you put on, the things that you wear, everything that you do. Like, I'm a creep. I'm a creep for the Schaffers. Like, I creep on you. I'm just like, what is Bobby? Like, Bobby said this. How did he get there? Like, I am constantly absorbing, because you guys are such a great example, and you don't boast about it. You're not like, look at us. You're truly just being used by the Lord, and you're just leading by example, just by being who you are. And at that, like, there is not a thing that could get me out of here to go say something else is better. Somebody could walk in here right now and be like, you'd make $1 million a year or $1 million a month doing this. And I would say, no, that is how I'm committed here. It's not about the money. It's about what we're doing here for the kingdom. And of course, yeah, it's still about the money, because there's a lot of things I want to do with that money to bless the world and my family. Like, can I get an amen?
Yes. Amen.
Woo, that was fire. That was fire.
I wanted to say, if you're listening to this, the thing about God is, if you don't decide to bust through the wall, he's still going to love you unconditionally. He doesn't hold it against you.
Yeah.
But busting through the wall will take you to the next level of what he has for you. So these places of supernatural peace in the midst of a wild storm in your life, the ability to have grace and forgive somebody when they flat out betray and wrong you. Those are supernatural holy moments. They don't come without growth. And the only way that you can get to those places is by busting through the wall. And it's hard work. I mean, these girls are being very gentle on this call. I gave them permission to like go there and say things, and they did.
Like,
Yeah, what do you want us to say?
I don't know. I just feel like there had to have been moments where you're like, I'm so over Michelle and her things. And I say that because I'm like over myself sometimes. I'm like, I hate the way my brain works sometimes. I wish I didn't have all these things.
Rebuke that.
I know.
Yeah.
Yes, I rebuke it. You're right.
Rebuke that. No, listen, I'm going to stop you there, because and this is something that I really think people need to understand. When you are in the presence of someone who has an anointing on their life and the mission and the vision that they have, all of that is literally wiped. And some of you may be like, oh yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. It's true though. You really are surrounded by someone who is, like Molly said, who is in it constantly, follows the vision, has the ideas, is going here and there, doing a million things. It's not a matter of us being like, oh my gosh, we hate her. And oh my gosh, we just don't like that she's pushing us like this. And oh my gosh, and it may seem odd. It may seem odd to the average person because you may say that about the person down the street. Maybe it's the neighbor. Maybe it's one of your really good friends you may say that about because they may be annoying you. But when there's an anointing, like it just hits different. It's almost like God opens the veil and clears it to where you're not even seeing that. You're not seeing that. You're not feeling that. Like you are, thanks, Holy Spirit. You're just not in that. And he's literally put you on this path and there's warriors on the side of you. And it's like, you're just going forward, no matter the hard conversations, no matter the stretching and the pushing and like, I know you can do this. And that's true leadership. Somebody that is truly saying, hey, I believe in you. God believes in you. This is what we're going to be doing. I need you to meet me where we are going to push forward together. I'm not going to leave you behind. And so I mean, Michelle, like we can be as nice as we may have complained about like certain things, like why are we doing this and why are we doing this again? But it's never been, I don't like her and I don't like what she's doing and I don't like that she's pushing. And, you know, to top off what Molly said, like there is no place I'd rather be. Like if everything were to stay what it is right now, I could do it. I could do that. I could do that for the rest of my life because it's so much more than just this company. Like the blessings that happen, I mean, on a daily basis. I mean, I could be driving my kid to school and it's like, ooh, I hit the green light. Like just it's as simple as that for me. It's an everyday thing and the miracles and the things that have transpired. So I definitely, when you're in that kind of presence and when you're surrounded by that and you know in your soul that you're fully trusted, you have the ability to grow and mess up and not be kicked to the side, and that you can truly step in to what you've always wanted to be, even if you don't believe it at the moment. Like that's it.
Well, I feel very, very lucky to be able to work so closely with you guys, get to know you, your families. And for those of you that are listening, this relationship that we are in is, and I think part of the reason, thank you guys for all the very, very kind things. That's not why the purpose of the podcast. I didn't want to do that to just be like a little ego boost. That's not what it was. But I think that part of what created this environment is that I do fully trust them and I do love them. And I think they know that whether it was hard moments and we're being stretched or whatever, that, you know, I really do love them. And if you are leading others, when they know that you actually care about them, that changes the dynamic very, very much. And both of you said something, and I can say this has been a very big area of growth for me. I always thought I was a humble leader, even at the peak of my network marketing career when we're getting all the accolades. And it was false. I wasn't as humble as I told myself I was. I still wanted to be in the front of the room. I still wanted to make sure people knew who I was. I still wanted to be on the stage. And it was something that drove me. And I can tell you that who I am now, I am driven to see other people do that. I don't care. I want Jesus' name to be known way more. I feel uncomfortable in those spaces when we talk about RLA and these different things. Yes, I may have put them in words and pushed them out, but they did not come from me. And even the vision for this company and all the directions that we go, yes, they're in this brain, but they came from the Lord, which is why I feel confident in pushing through things, because I want this thing that he's put in me for others to come out, and I don't want to miss it. Like, I don't want to miss it. And because I know I got my own problems, I'm going to mess things up, I'm willing to take risks in certain areas because I don't want to miss it. It's like, Lord, I think you're saying this, so I'm going to go for it. If it wasn't what he said, it won't pan out and it won't work, and no harm, no foul. But if he said something and I didn't take action on it, I don't want to miss it. I don't want to miss it for me. And I don't want to miss it for all the lives that will be impacted by the thing that he put in there. So I'm a risk taker by nature. I think you both, I think Molly had more risk taker in her than Farras did, but I think now you both have raised your level of ability to kind of take risks. And I say that like with good stewardship, like we're not crazy. I mean, sometimes we're crazy, but within boundaries. So if you're the environment that you're in, I just want to encourage you to be that person. Be that person for other people. Help pull people up. Pull yourself up. Be around people that are going to pull you up. Don't be afraid of it. One of the things, and I'll end with this, and you guys can have a final comment. We'll do Farras and then Molly. You can end the podcast. But everybody knows who Steve Jobs is now. He changed the face of Apple. He changed the face of technology. He changed the face of the music industry and so many things that came as a result of what was first the iPod. Well, as I was reading his story and he had this idea for the very first iPod, he heard that Corning, do you guys know this story about the glass? So he heard that Corningware, like dishes, Corningware had this product called Gorilla Glass. And he thought this would be perfect for the iPod. So he went to Corning and he said, I'd like you to take this glass that you developed and I'd like you to put it in this product. Like I need it for this product that I'm creating, the first iPod. And they were like, yeah, we think we could probably do that, but it's going to take X amount of time. I don't remember the amounts of time. He goes, no, you can do it. And you're going to do it in this amount of time. And it was really some outrageous number of the quantity that he wanted and the time frame. Like it was literally, they told him it cannot be done. They said it's impossible. He goes, you will do it or I'll find another company to do it. And it was a multi-million dollar like invoice for them. They did it. And now people that knew him said he was a jerk in a lot of ways. But what he did for people was he called them to a new level of everything. He changed the way they did work. And even though they couldn't stand who he was as a person because he was so hard, every single person that worked with him said, like we did things that were literally impossible because he believed that we could do it. And we just figured out the how. And I am just a big believer that everything is possible. It's just a matter of how. And we have done that here. And we are just getting started with our company. And I love you both dearly. And I'll let you guys close it out. Farras, you first.
At the very end of that, like, oh, we can't do it. I can't tell you how many times I've asked myself that based on things that Michelle said, like, hey, so I was thinking that maybe we should do this. And in my head, I'm like, I can't do that. I can't do that. There's no way. I will leave with this. Truly surrendering and trusting God with every aspect of your life, financial, personal, emotional, mental, is a game changer. And I know I'll say for myself, I used to say, yeah, I trust God. That wasn't truly that. So fully trusting that he's going to do the things that are promised in black and white for your life. So no matter how messy it looks and how it is to get to that next point. And being surrounded around, just us here at the corporate team. I think another way that it really works in leadership and here is that we can fully be ourselves. That's messy. That's, hey, we can kind of go down like weird, nasty, gross ways. We can go down like, oh, we're frustrated and angry ways. We can, maybe I don't really like this kind of trait, but it's really accepting people for the real, true selves and loving them through it and trusting God is going to do what he says he's going to do. I think that's something that's super, super huge in leadership. That's what we have here. That's what we're trying to provide here for everybody here at Girl Power Alliance, Real Men Alliance, Kingdom Alliance as a whole. And when you really tap into that and really hear it, it's going to change everything because it did for me.
Oh, good. Thank you, Farras. Molly, take us home.
Gosh, I mean, the whole seeding of this, because when Michelle says she didn't put this together, she didn't ask us to come on this podcast so she could like gas her ego up. First of all, she doesn't have one. She doesn't have an ego. She literally doesn't. She hates it when we talk about her and edify her. She's like, oh my gosh, too much. Even if you say one thing, but I'm glad that she did, because it's like, it's just showing the gratitude we have as a team and how much we so appreciate her, but it didn't come without sacrifice on so many different levels. And I know all of us could write a completely separate book over the last 4 years of what God has brought us through. And I'm sure it will come out at some point. So coming soon, I'm going to put that out there. But the environment matters, because if you're in a circle where people are just like, oh, it's okay, maybe later, you're in the wrong circle.
Yeah.
Like so many people are catering to your, oh, I don't feel, or my emotions. It's like, there's a difference between emotions, feelings, and discernment. Get in the circle that has discernment. Get in the circle that says, I know that you're feeling this way, but your feelings, is that really accurate? What is God asking you to do? And are you going to leap forward? Because it's not always going to be comfortable. It's going to be messy and it's going to be hard. I saw a post that one of our ambassadors tagged us in on Facebook talking about pioneers. And that's what we are here, saying that both God and the enemy are after you to die. God wants you to die to your flesh, and enemy wants you to die so nothing gets birthed out of you. When I read that, I was like, oh my gosh. I literally read that right before we got on here. And I was like, that is so good, because it's true. The enemy wants to he knows that there's something inside of you, and he wants to make sure that you never figure it out. And the right environment is going to help that come out. But then God's also after you. So you just literally die to your flesh and let him lead.
Yeah.
And back to the leadership piece, and this is what I'll end on. That is why this is so crucial, because before coming in full time here at Girl Power Alliance, I mean, I would have considered myself a leader in a lot of regards. But when I look back on it, no, I was more of a dictator. I was more of like, hey, just follow what I do, because that's what the world shows you. The world's actually, well, forget the world. It doesn't really know leadership. It's trying to copycat the real one, the OG, Jesus Christ. Like he is the one, and people get to learn that here and be in an environment where we call them higher. We're going to call them out lovingly so they can actually really pursue what God has for them. And the right environment will do that. And without Michelle kind of shaking our trees, if you will, of like, hey, that's cute. I know you're here, but we're moving, and we're moving fast, and we're going to do 100 things at one time, and you're going to figure it out, or you're not. But we're glad that we did. So Michelle, thank you. And for everybody that's watching and listening, comment below, like if you're looking for a community, like this is it. This is something that is so different, that is going to leave the best taste in your mouth of real people really for you.
Yeah.
For you. And we're excited for you to be a part of that. And also, comment like what you learned here. Did something stand out to you? Because even your comments will be able to be an epiphany revelation for somebody else that needs something like this. So we're just grateful that you tuned in today, because this is something that's really real and hit home. And I'm glad that we were all able to jump on.
Thank you, ladies. We'll see y'all soon.